Hello everybody, so in this presentation we're going to talk about online learning and its foundations and current state and future directions. So when you look at online learning, you can kind of think of it as a series of interactions or types of interactions. So we have learner-content interaction, learner-instructor interaction, and learner-learner interaction. And all of these interactions have their purpose and importance, especially with younger grades, where students don't have all the self-regulation or metacognitive skills as adults. So let's talk a little bit about the history of distance education. So with distance education, that really began in the 1800s. You can imagine that basically there wasn't a lot of ways to communicate with people at a distance, and so they really relied on the mail for the most part. And this really was a slow process to communicate, but what they do is they'd send out packets to students who would then complete the packets by themselves with little or no formative feedback or assistance from their instructors, and then mail back the packet when they were complete for grading. So you can imagine that's not the ideal way to learn for younger students. Now, once the modes of communication improved, you started seeing instructors have radio broadcasts. It might have felt like they were speaking with students, but they're really speaking at students. Same with television. They would have these television video courses. And then as you can imagine, as telephones became more commonplace, instructors and students could actually talk on the phone. But again, that wasn't entirely convenient. You'd have to sync up your schedule so that you could be on the phone at the same time, which was not convenient, and I'm not entirely sure how often that would have occurred in these courses. But then we also had fax machines where students could fax assignments back to an instructor. Let's say they wrote a paper, they could fax it to the instructor could write on that paper and then fax back the responses and the feedback, and then you could have different rounds of feedback. So this is really when you could start having some meaningful formative feedback from instructors. But again, there weren't any really learner-learner interactions at this point. The focus was really on the learner-content interactions and learner-instructor interactions. Sorry, this might take a while. My internet's pretty slow right now.
You've got mail.
Oh, great. I have electronic mail. So I don't know how many of you remember the dial-up days, but I do. And in fact, where I lived in high school when dial-up first came out, it was a long-distance phone call because I was living in a rural area. So we were really limited on what we could do. And if there was any image, it would take forever to load. So really what you were doing is you were sharing text back and forth in electronic mail or email or discussion forums or boards and things like that. But as far as transmitting video or images, that was kind of out of the question where we lived, and for most people. But like I said, you could have discussion boards, and that kind of ruled the day, that you could share these text messages back and forth, which was really the first time when you had meaningful learner-learner interactions. So the internet really changed how we learned at a distance. And along with that, we started having some learning management systems, but there are several different learning management systems, and you probably have experience either as a student or instructor using lots of these. And this isn't even a comprehensive list. There are others that have come out just in the last couple of years. So learning management systems are great because it organizes everything in the course. So it makes learning easy and convenient, and you can have lots of interaction there. But also outside tools allow for different types of interaction as well. So here we have like Google Hangouts or Skype, where you can have synchronous video calls where you can actually see your peers or instructors, or you can actually have asynchronous video communication using screencasting tools like Jing or even YouTube, where you can host or upload videos where it can be viewed by others. So you can have different types of interaction. The other thing that you can do is now you can have synchronous collaboration with learners with tools like Google Doc or Google Drive and Prezi and Poplet. All these are tools that you can synchronously go in and make changes where other people will immediately see the changes that you're making. So it really changes the game as far as collaboration goes, because now you can have synchronous collaboration as well as kind of these high fidelity video calls or audio calls that are really, really simple. At the same time that we've had this explosion of kind of collaborative tools, we've also seen a movement for personalized learning. And so when we talk about personalized learning, a lot of times that's referred to as flexibility in time, place, pace, and path. So time as far as when you're working, place, where you're working, and pace, how fast you're working, and path is what you're working on. So sometimes you'll hear any time, any place, any pace, any path, or a combination of those things. There are some technologies out there that are really enabling this more so than ever before. So Khan Academy is probably the most famous and most popular, where with Khan Academy you can sign up for challenge, I think they call it, and then as you go through that, you watch videos and you take quizzes along the way, assessments, and if you struggle on a quiz question, a video might pop up and say, watch this. So there is some adaptability there as far as your path goes along the way. But really, it provides a lot of flexibility in time, place, and pace. And as an instructor, what it does is this bottom image right here is it gives instructors a dashboard where it can see, if students are having struggles with specific concepts. And then as an instructor, you can see that and you can intervene. And you can also track the progress of all of your students, which can be extremely valuable. There are even more robust adaptive learning environments where the technology creates a very individual path for students based on their responses, and it then uses to customize your path. So where in Khan Academy, really everyone is watching the same videos for the most part, in these other environments, almost everybody has a unique path that they're going along. So in some blended environments, what they're doing is they limit the place somewhat because students are working on, like Khan Academy, in a classroom at the same time. But then if they don't finish, they can work from home or they can work ahead, so they have some flexibility. But once you have this anytime, any place, any pace, any path, look at what type of classrooms you're seeing. So what you're not seeing is students interacting together very much or in meaningful ways. So you have students at their own place in the system, and so because they're at their own place, it really limits the ways that they can interact with each other. Now that's not to say that they don't interact with each other. Here in this image, you see that some students are talking with each other about concepts. We see these two girls right here. I can't obviously hear what they're saying, but I can kind of imagine that one is assisting the other either with a technology or with a concept, but they're not necessarily collaborating on any projects. At the same time that there's been a focus on this this model, we've also had emphasis on these 21st century skills. So you see this column right here. This is FCPS's portrait of a graduate. So they want their graduates to be communicators, collaborators, ethical and global citizens, creative and critical thinkers, goal-directed and resilient individuals. We also see what's called 4Cs. Some organizations are promoting these 4Cs, which is collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. These are also kind of called 21st century learning skills. You'll hear that a lot. Think about this for a minute. If everyone is at their own time, place, pace, and path, they're probably not communicating with each other in meaningful ways. They're probably not collaborating. And even these systems are kind of limited in the ways that they can encourage creativity. It can really do a great job with critical thinking and some of those things, but even that's limited. So it's great at helping students develop knowledge and skills, but how they're applying that in meaningful, authentic ways to develop these 21st century skills is pretty limited, actually. At the same time, we're seeing movements of like problem or project-based learning or really collaborative environments in brick and mortar schools. But again, although it can be considered personalized learning, it is not any time, any place, any pace, any path. Because they're collaborating, they have to work together. Now, there is some flexibility in the path. So, for instance, an instructor might have an objective saying, I want you to create something that does this, but what that end product looks like can be really up for the students to design and to discover. And so it's really the student that's determining the path more than, say, the technology and the adaptive learning environments that we're describing before. Now, this still requires a high level of instructor involvement, but it's very different from what we see in some of those other environments like with Khan Academy. So Garrison is a very well-known researcher in 2009, he said that interaction and collaboration are limited by organizational perimeters such as self-pacing and the perceived value of self-direction. So again, this anytime, place, pace, path model really limits the level or types of interaction and collaboration that you're seeing in environments. So which is most popular? Is it the independent model or the collaborative model? And with the online environment, what we're seeing is that most enrollments are supplemental enrollments. And this means that students are taking one online class and then the rest of their courses are face-to-face. And with that, they're following different school schedules, or maybe it's credit recovery. They need to finish a credit quickly so they can graduate, all these different things. And so because of that, it really places an emphasis on flexibility. And so what you don't see is a lot of learner-learner collaboration. You might have discussion boards, but even then, people might post something one week and then not hear anything for a couple more weeks. But what you do see is a lot of learner content interaction, in some cases a lot of instructor-learner interaction, where instructors are providing lots of feedback to their students and are having meaningful communication with them, and in some cases are developing strong relationships with their students. And instructors have even said that they've been able to develop stronger relationships with their students online than in face-to-face environments. So what about cyber charter schools? In a cyber charter school, everyone is on the same school calendar because they're full-time students. They're taking all or most of their courses at the cyber charter school. So what type of learning activities are we seeing there? And there was a recent report by Mathematica that was the largest report on this topic, and it was a national survey with administrators, and their findings were really quite interesting. So what they found was that most of the learning activities were individualized, student-driven, independent study activities. So even when it's possible to put everybody on the same calendar, the same pace, they're not doing that very much in these environments. Now, that's not to say that they're not collaborating. So we see that they are having some discussions, but again, that's in a minority of the courses. And even collaborative projects, we see an even bigger drop there, where in high school only 1 out of every 5 classes will have a collaborative assignment, and we don't know how collaborative those courses really truly are. But again, they're even focusing on these individualized, student-driven, independent studies. So the question is, why aren't we seeing more of these collaborative methods? Well, there's a few different reasons. One is these courses tend to be offered asynchronously, and when you have collaboration, even if you have the same deadlines, the same weekly deadlines for everybody in the course, students are going to be working at different times. And so you'll have those procrastinators, and then you'll have those early starters. And so it makes it difficult for them. It can be really frustrating for them if you require them to collaborate. And a lot of collaboration requires even synchronous communication is best for a lot of those things. And so although the tools are available, it really constrains when students work. Also, standardized tests are not collaborative, and so if you want to help students gain the knowledge that they need to do well in standardized tests, then these adaptive learn environments or like Khan Academy can be great because they're going to have that knowledge that they can then demonstrate on those standardized tests, although they're probably not gaining those collaborative skills that the standardized tests don't measure. Also, collaboration tends not to be implemented very well online, and as a result, it's pretty unpopular with students and with teachers. Another big thing is that teachers' personal beliefs about learning and teaching, so how they view their own role and how they view the roles of students. That can be a huge obstacle. So these are all issues that we're going to focus on, and we're not just going to focus on online collaboration. We're going to talk about how students can collaborate in blended environments as well, or how they can communicate in blended environments, where they might communicate or collaborate in part face-to-face and in part online. But we're going to talk about some of these obstacles in more depth, and how to overcome those obstacles and really have meaningful environments where students can not only learn the content, but can develop those 21st century skills. So anyway, looking forward to it, and thank you for listening to this presentation.